Welcome to the Daily Devotional Podcast with author, pastor, and speaker Zach Maldonado, a podcast about helping you know and enjoy Christ each day.
It's encouraging to me to think about that all the disciples, they didn't feel always cared for. They doubted God. They doubted what Jesus was doing. Sometimes they didn't feel like he was concerned with them, or that even that he had forgotten them. You know, one of my favorite stories about Jesus is when he's taking a nap in the boat in the middle of a storm, and he was with his disciples as they were crossing a sea to get to the other side, and all of a sudden the storm comes out of nowhere. Now remember, most of his disciples were professional fishermen, and they knew how to handle storms. They had been through plenty of storms, but this one was different. Scholars say that this one may have been like a hurricane type storm, and so they were all freaking out, and it must have been, like I said, like hurricane weather, and so much so that the waves, they were crashing in, the boat started filling with water, and they thought they were all going to die. So they woke Jesus up from his nap and said, "Don't you care that we're dying?" Wow, how many times have I asked God that? Don't you care? Don't you care about this? Don't you care about that? And then what does Jesus do? He wipes some sleep out of his eyes, probably. He wakes up, he calms the storm, and he asks this question: why are you scared? Have you no trust in me? Notice that Jesus didn't create the storm, and he isn't the creator of our bad circumstances either, but he does calm the storm. So Jesus doesn't create the storm, but he calms the storm, and he's the author, he's the writer, he's the perfecter of our faith and our peace in every storm, because that's who he is. What I love about this story is that Jesus meets the need even when they were faithless. God is faithful even when they had no faith. It's the same with us. God is faithful to meet our needs, to calm our storms, even when we are faithless. That's the good news of Christianity, that the promises of God do not rest on what we do not rest on our faith, but on God's. That Jesus is with us even in the midst of our loneliness, even in the midst of our doubts, that he welcomes our doubts, he welcomes our failures, and he doesn't shame us for them. He knows our needs, and he cares about us deeply, and he promises to never leave us to figure this life out on our own. He promises to never forsake us. He promises us that when we go seeking for value and significance and worth, he goes with us, and then he shows us that he's all we need. And we can recognize that in him our needs are met. The Bible gives this image of Jesus as our shepherd, and it says, and in him, even in the valley of the shadow of death, we lack nothing. It says he leads us in Psalm 23. He refreshes us. He guides us. He's always in us, and he's always good and loving toward us. So be okay with asking those questions. Be okay with doubting God, knowing that he's not scared of that he's in it, he's with you, and he's always leading us into his love and into his truth that sets us free.
You've been listening to the Daily Devotional Podcast with Zach Maldonado. Join us each day for a new devotional that will help you know and enjoy Christ. For more great content from Zach, including his books, sermons, and more, check out zachmaldonado.com.